So, hello to everyone. My name is Sayliyeva Raxmiddinovna. Today, we will discuss about the Renaissance period and the representatives of this period. So, first of all, we should know the historical background, the origin of this period. Two main events helped to shape this period in English literature: the Reformation and the widespread use of the printing press. The Reformation in October 31, 1517, Martin Luther, a German priest, publishes his 95 Theses against the sale of papal indulgence to help building St. Peter's Basilica. This led to the subsequent rebellion against the Catholic authors and the birth of Protestantism. The Catholic Church, in its hierarchy, lost much of its power and influence. This gave rise to a consciousness about humanity that did not wholly depend on religion and become much more centered around the human being, a movement we identify as humanism. Reformation in Britain. The Church of England is an established church in England and the massive church of the Anglican Communion. It originated in the concerts between church and state throughout the Middle Ages, culminating in the Act of Supremacy issued by Henry VIII in 1534. This repudiated papal supremacy and declared the king to be the supreme head of the church in England. The printing press. During the beginning of the 16th century, the availability of printed works grew explosively. Printed versions of old Roman and Greek classics became widely available. Translation of the Bible also became widely available, thus giving extra force to the Reformation ideal of the finding in the Holy Book all the answer for the spiritual needs of common people. So, literature of the period, poetry. Let's talk about the poetry of that period. Sir Thomas White, English poet and statesman. He served in various capacities under the Henry VIII and was knighted in 1536. Greatly influenced by the works of Italian love poets, White produced the first group of sonnets in English, modeled after Petrarch. Besides sonnets, he wrote lyrics, rodents, satires, and paraphrase of penitential lessons. None of his poems appeared in his lifetime. Henry Howard, so let's talk about this representative of that period. Courtier and poet, he was born in Hounslow, Hertfordshire, England, UK. In 1532, he accompanied Henry VIII to France, was knighted in 1542, and served in Scotland, France, and Flanders. On his return in 1546, his enemies and court charged him with treason, and he was found guilty and beheaded. He is remembered for his love poetry influenced by the Italian tradition, in which he pioneered the use of blank verse and Elizabethan sonnets from Edmund Spenser. He was a poet and was born in London, England. He studied at Cambridge University. His first original work was a sequence of pastoral poems, the Shepherd's Calendar. In 1586, he began his major work, the Fairy Queen, using a 9-line verse pattern, which later came to be called the Spenserian stanza. The first three books dedicated to Elizabeth I were published in 1590 and the second three in 1596. But the poem was left unfinished at his death. William Shakespeare, English dramatist and poet. He was born in Stratford-on-Avon. He is considered the greatest playwright who ever lived. His poetic output included two narrative poems, Venus and Adonis, and The Rape of Luceria, and 154 sonnets. The sonnets are by far his most important non-dramatic poetry. They are marked by the recurring themes of beauty, useful beauty ratcheted by time, and the ability of love and art to the transcendent time and even death. Sir Walter Raleigh, English courtier, explorer, soldier, and writer. He made a name for himself fighting the Irish monster. Later, he became a favorite of Queen Elizabeth I. He organized expeditions to the New World, popularized tobacco, and found time to write. Finally, after an unfortunate expedition in America, James I had him beheaded in 1618. Sir Walter Raleigh made extensive use of the Italian sonnets recently introduced in Britain. He also wrote a history of world incomplete and discovery of guano. Literature of the period. Let's talk about drama of that period. Without a doubt, the major literary achievements of the age can be found in the dramatic works of Cristopher Marlowe, William Shakespeare, and Ben Jonson. The later part of the 16th century saw the rise in popularity of the genre that was born from the representations inside churches and cathedrals. So, the patronage of Queen Elizabeth I and the King James I in favor of companies of actors secured a steady flow of plays from some of the most talented writers in history. Cristopher Marlowe. He was English dramatist, poet, and was born in Canterbury. Probably the great English dramatist before Shakespeare. He was educated at Cambridge and went to London in 1587, where he became an actor and dramatist for the Lord Admiral's Company. His most important plays are the two parts of Tamburlaine and the Great and Faustus, Dr. Faustus. The Jew of the Malta, and Edward II. Marlowe is noted especially for his establishment of dramatic language. So, William Shakespeare, playwright. Let's see, William Shakespeare as a playwright and their dramas. Shakespeare is considered the greatest playwright that ever lived. He is credited with 37 plays divided into comedies, tragedies, romances, Roman plays, and historical plays. He used many sources as inspiration, and many of his plays are not originally seen. The strength of Shakespeare's plays rests in the masterful use of language and in the compelling treatment of plot and character. Ben Jonson. Ben Jonson, English Jacobean dramatist, lyric poet, and literary critic. He is generally regarded as the second most important English dramatist after William Shakespeare. Among his major plays are the comedies Every Man in His Humor, Volpone, The Alchemist, and Bartholomew Fair, Bartholomew Fair. Literature of that period, let's talk about the prose. The prose of this period took several forms. Translation of major classical works, chronicles, early novels, and essays were written by the variety of talented authors, among whom we can find Francis Bacon, Thomas Nash, Richard Hooker, and etc. The authorized translation of the Bible is another major piece of the work written in prose. Nurse Sir Thomas, English translator whose version of Plattruch view parallelly was the source for many of the William Shakespeare's plays. His work, written in an effective style, was not translated from the Greek original, but rather from the French version. The translation of parallel leaves was a major step in the development of English prose. Thomas Nash, English playwright, poet, and satirist. Also, his first publications appeared in 1589. It was not until Pierce Pennell's his supplication to the devil, a bitter satire on the contemporary society, that his natural and vigorous style was fully developed. Also, he wrote poetry and plays. He is best known for The Unfortunate Traveler, a story that anticipates the Picare to a novel of adventures. Richard Hooker. So he studied at Oxford, was ordinated in 1580 first, and became rector of parish near Trent. His most important work was of the laws of ecclesiastical polity. So it was an epoch making discussion of the church government written in the excellent prose style. Its influence on the theory of government as based on the rules of reason was widely felt in England. John Lilly, English dramatist and prose writer. His most important work, Orpheus, was an early example of the novel of manners and was one of the most influential work of its time. So much so that it gave birth to a short literary movement called Euphuism. In it, Lilly tried to establish an ideal of perfected prose style, which was actually convoluted and artificial. Francis Bacon, English philosopher, essayist, and statesman. He held several offices in the court before falling into disgrace. His best known philosophical tracts were the Advisement of the Learning and the Novum Organum. His main contribution to the literature are his essays on the many subjects written in a clear and concise prose. They are the best early examples of the essay writing in English. women writers of that period. It is from this period that we have the first clear presence of female writers of some note. Apart from Queen Elizabeth herself, we can mention Mary Herbert and Aemilia Lanyer. It is worthy to mention that in general, women writers of this and earlier periods are all but forgotten in the majority of English literature accounts. The probable reason being that women were not regarded in equal terms with men. Mary Herbert. So, Mary Herbert, patronage of arts and scholarship and a notable translator. She was a sister of Sir Philip Sidney, who dedicated to her his Arcadia. After his death, she published it and completed his first translation of the poems. So, apart from several translation works, she also read a number of poems, most notably and alleged to his brother Philip. Aemilia Lanyer, a highly educated woman who from an early age became acquainted with the court of Queen Elizabeth I. In 1611, she published a volume of poetry entitled Solstice Rex and the etc. works. All the poems in the volume were written in iambic pentameter. The poems of book reflect Lanyer's ideas about the place of the woman in society and are quite advanced for the period. For example, in Eva's apology in defense of woman, she defends Eva saying that it was Adam who should take most of the blame for the original sin. So, Queen Elizabeth I. She was Queen of England and Ireland from the 1558 to 1603. Elizabeth came to the throne with the Tudor concepts of strong rule and the realization that effective rule depended upon popular support. At her death, 45 years later, England had passed through one of the great periods of its history, a period that produced some of the most notable figures in the literature and exploration, a period that saw England become a major European power. She was a patron of the arts, especially literature, possessed great knowledge, wrote poetry, and translated several texts into English. Emblematic literature. The Book of Emblems was born in the Renaissance and was to become one of the most popular forms of literature for the next 200 years. The main characteristic of the emblem book is the relationship between the image and text. Basically, an emblem book consists of epigrammatic text accompanied by an image that usually illustrates or clarifies the text. In 1535, Andrea Elciti published the first book of the emblems called Emblematic Liber, Book of the Emblems. It means Book of the Emblems. Alciotto book proved extremely popular and was subsequently translated and printed in as many as 150 different editions. Emblematic literature in English. So several books of emblems were published in England during the 16th century, 16th, 17th, and 18th centuries. Many of them were published either in Latin or French. Later, many such books began to appear in English. Some of the most important were Philip's Eras and the Media Amatoria, Christopher Harvey, The School of the Heart, Claude Paradine, The Heroical Devices of Claudius Paradine, Jeffrey Whitney, A Choice of Emblems. And the last one is George Wither, A Collection of Emblems, Ancient and Modern. So, the sonnet. A sonnet is a 40-line poem in iambic pentameter with a carefully patterned rhyme shape. The Italian or Petrarchian sonnet was introduced into English poetry in the early 16th century by Sir Thomas White. Its 14 lines break into octaver or octet, which usually rhymes A, B, B, A, A, B, B, A, but which may sometimes be A, B, B, A, C, D, D, C, and sestet, which may rhyme X, Y, Z, X, Y, Z, or X, Y, X, X, Y, X, Y, or any of the multiple variants possible using only 2 or 3 rhyme sounds. The English or Shakespearean sonnet developed first by the Earl of the Surrey, consists of 3 quatrains and couplet that rhymes A, B, C, D, or E, F, or G. Blank verse. Unrhymed iambic pentameter. The most important dramatic and narrated verse from English, form in English. Blank verse enables a character to express the emotions beautifully and musically, that yet retaining the natural rhyme of the language. William Shakespeare transformed the line and the instrument of blank verse into the vehicle for the greatest English dramatic poetry. His most poignant tragedies such as Othello, King Lear, Hamlet, Macbeth are mainly written in carefully crafted blank verse. So there are given some comedies, romances, the romance plays, stories, tragedies. Let's see, turn by turn. The comedy of the errors, love's labor lost, the 2 gentlemen of Veronia, the timing of the shoe, the midsummer night's dream, the merchant of the when sea, much ado about nothing, and etc. So you see. So this is all information I want to share with you. Thank you for your attention. See you. Bye.